Hi, so here is a very short lesson on how to spice up your playing when you're playing with a group or solo, but mostly with the group. A lot of us belong to a ukulele group or groups, many clubs around the country and the world. And when we all get together in one room, it always seems to sound exactly the same. So what I'm going to do here is teach just a little bit of basic music theory, not going to get too deep into it, just enough to explain what we're doing, and then I'm going to show you a couple of chord shapes that you can use when you're playing with your group that'll add quite a bit to both the group, and of course if you're playing solo, these are nice little chord things to do even then, because it doesn't matter. So the first thing we want to know is in chord structure, the major triad, which is what all of our chords or major chords are built around, are the first note, the third note, and the fifth note of the scale. For example, in the key of C, that'd be the C note, the E note, and a G note. Okay, so the C, E, and G is the major triad, which is a C chord. Okay. When we think about what we do there, if our C that we all know and love, we play like so, third finger, third fret, first string, and our notes are G, C, E, and another C. So that's our C chord. That's our C triad. Now, to make a seventh chord, what we do is we play the first, the third, the fifth, and we flat the seventh note. And that's the typically the five chord, or we flat the seventh, make it a dominant seventh. So in a C7 chord, like so, okay, we have I didn't do that diagram. We have a G, we have our C, there's our root, here's our E, here's our G, so there's our 1, 3, and 5, and then we play a B flat, and that's our seventh, because the seventh note would be a B, flatted would be a B flat. And there's our C7 chord. Okay. Now, for this, what we're going to know is when we want to substitute, we can actually play a 9 chord instead of a 7 chord, instead of the dominant seventh. The 9 chord is made up of the first note, the third note, the fifth note, the flat seventh, and the 9. Now, many of you have already probably figured out, well, that's 5 notes and I've only got 4 strings. So what we do is we leave one out, obviously, and the best one to leave out is the root note, the C, because the bass player would cover it. A lot of times it's in the melody, it's implied, and if you're playing in a group and everybody else is playing a seventh, dominant seventh, they've got the root covered. You're going to be doing the 9. You've got the extra note on top of theirs. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is let's look at an alternate C7 chord. So what we do is we bar all the way across at the third fret, and we take our second finger and put it on the C string, or the third string, at the fourth fret. And here we have our flat seventh, we have our 3, our 5, and our 1. So there's our 1, 3, 5, flat seventh. So that's a C7. The reason I want to show you that C7 is when we add the 9th note to it, which would be adding C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Okay, so we want to add a D. It's right there. So it's all we do is put our third finger on the 5th fret of the first string. And there we have our C9. Now we've got all 4 strings covered, which makes it really handy because we can move that chord around as we want to learn more chords. If you wanted to play a D9, you just come up a full step. There's a D9. Okay, if you want to go to an E9, it'd be one more. Okay, so from our C9, we can go down to a B9, we can go down to a B flat 9. Okay, anything in between. All right, so that's the advantage of a 4-finger chord. So any place that we're playing in the key of C, we're probably going to, or in the key of F, we're probably going to wind up having a dominant 7th chord of a C7 before we go back home to the F. You now are totally capable of playing a C9, so you can substitute that chord. It's really pretty simple. So before we go, let's add one more chord to it. Now you'll have a full arsenal. So what I suggest is going to your group and just picking one of these, depending on which one you want to learn first, and use it when you can. The next one is a G9. Okay, G9 is, I think, a really simple chord to play. We're going to be playing the first, the third, the fifth, the flat seventh, and the 9. Again, we got to leave one out, so we're going to leave the root out. So we're going to play the 3, the 5, the flat 7, and the 9. Okay, I like this shape. What we do is we bar at the 4th fret, and we bar the first 3 strings, 1, 2, 3, at the 5th fret. So it looks something like that. Now I use my 3rd finger. You could use your 2nd finger there, whatever works for you. I find the 3rd finger lays a little flatter for me and is a little easier. Okay, so I use the 3rd finger on the 5th fret, covering 1st, 2nd, and 3rd string, and cover all of that. Again, this is a movable chord. This is a G9, down a full step is an F9, up a full step is an A9. Okay, so you can move that chord around. You can wiggle that chord. It's for another time. So anytime we're playing in the key of C, our 1, 4, 5 chord progression that's co-common in the key of C, actually common in any key, but it plays the dominant 7th chord, which would be a G7. We can substitute the G9 that we just learned for that. So that's what I would do if I were you. I would practice those 2 chords. I would practice the C9, okay, and the G9. And next time you go to your club and you go to a jam and you see C7 or G7 popping up on the thing, get fancy, play that 9 chord, okay? If you're lucky, somebody's going to hear it and they'll go, wow. So it's a way to spice up your playing without a whole bunch of work. Until then, keep on strumming.